Hey, what up, everybody? This is Mr. View, and today we're going to be talking about Germany and Hitler and what he actually did for Germany in between World War One and World War Two, and some of the things that he did to gain and maintain power. Started to touch on that yesterday, but we're going to go in a little bit more depth today. So, to start this unit, we started talking about Mussolini, right? And he was a leader of the fascist party in Italy, and he used a totalitarian regime, right? So he controlled the press and he controlled the media and he controlled the elections and he got rid of his critics and things like that. Then we turned our attention to Japan, which was the second power in that Axis alliance, and how they were supposed to be a democracy, but they got ended up being run by the militarists, the guys who glorified the military, and they wanted to expand. They were imperialists. They were in a big depression over in Japan. They had this huge earthquake that caused a lot of problems, but then just the worldwide collapse got bad for Japan, and they ended up attacking China as a result. The League of Nations condemned them, but the League of Nations was so weak, didn't have any bite behind their bark, and so Japan just left the League of Nations, and nothing was really done. They just kept beating up on Japan. So Germany, we found out yesterday, was really bad shape after World War One. They had been blamed for World War One. They had to pay reparations, which is payments for war damages, and so they had to pay a bunch of money to these other countries while their own country was torn apart and destroyed. They had lost a lot of soldiers in World War One, but they had also lost a lot of businesses, transportation, as far as railroads and roads and things like that, schools, churches, you name it, they had lost it in World War One. Yet they were expected to pay everybody else back. They didn't have the money to do so. They thought, hey, let's just print a bunch of money and give it away, and that didn't work either because that caused inflation to really rise, made their money worth nothing, and so they really started to struggle. Their unemployment rose to 30%, which is higher by 5% than the United States at its worst. So Germany was in a really, really bad place here. And when things are bad for the majority of the population, things are going to change. And in stepped Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party, right? The National Socialist Party in Germany. And they began to gain more power and more clout as they went on. He was thrown in jail for a year where he wrote his book Mein Kampf, My Struggle, in which he outlined what he was going to do when he got out of jail. And guess what? He did it, and nobody should have been surprised, although we kind of were. So, what does Hitler do in Germany? He creates a totalitarian state, just like Mussolini, Il Duce, had done in Italy. So they want total control, right? The Nazis wanted total control over everything in Germany, and that's what they did. They got rid of all the other political parties. So, like in the United States, right, we have a pretty much a two-party system: the Democrats and the Republicans. Well, if the Democrats just bam get rid of the Republicans, that's what it would be like, right? One party would have complete control. In Germany, the Nazis had complete control. They executed, killed, or jailed anybody that spoke out against them. Anybody that said, "Oh, these National Socialists are bad," bam, they got a beating, they got killed, or they got thrown in jail. So nobody was talking against the Nazis. They also controlled education, the government, obviously, business, and religion. The business part is very interesting because they said certain people cannot have businesses. Guess what? Yeah, it's anti-Semitic. The Jewish people, they weren't allowed to have certain businesses, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later tomorrow. So they also use secret police, just like Mussolini, right? He has this Gestapo, and they go around enforcing the Nazi law. He has terror agents, thugs, right? His were the brown shirts, a little different than Mussolini's black shirts, but they did the same thing. They went around terrorizing people and making sure that they were following what the Nazis wanted. He used propaganda. We know that if you control the media, you can control a country, right? And so it's very important when a guy like Hitler gets in power that they control what's being said or what's being distributed to the people. So all the media outlets, the papers and the radio and things, were all saying great stuff about the Nazis and hiding all the bad stuff that they were doing. So the common person just thought, wow, these Nazis are great dudes, right? In reality, that was not the case. Freedom of the press is an enormous right that we have in our country and one that should never be taken away. This proves it, right? Because they controlled the media and they were able to control people and kind of brainwash people, if you will. They denounced music, art, and novels. They especially denounced like the African American jazz movement. They denounced the Jewish art movement. Novels that did not go along with their beliefs, the Nazi beliefs, they were burned. So they burned books and things like that. They also closed down churches. One thing you might not know about Hitler was that he was anti-Christian. He, as well as anti-Jewish, right? But he thought Christianity was flabby and weak, and he did not want people pledging their allegiance to God, a Christian God, before the Nazi state or Germany. He also does that smart thing that Mussolini did as far as going after the youth, right? Because if you go after the youth, you have a built up army later. So he has Hitler youth camps. Has them go on hikes and do physical fitness type of stuff and brainwashes them in the schools. The curriculum was not up to the teachers or even up to the school district. It was created by the German government. So they were learning certain things, and there's certain twists on those things, right? How the World War I was lost because of the Jewish population, and they was undermining them and things like that. So they were brainwashed. He went after the youth, which we don't like that idea that the youth are being brainwashed, right? Now I want you to think about something. Think about what we do in America. Would we ever do that? And you might say no, but I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Hmm. Just make you think. Women. He thought that women were supposed to make babies. He took women out of the upper level jobs. It was more of a misogynistic belief, right? We don't like that in America. We believe that men and women are on equal footing or should be on equal footing, and that they should have the same opportunities to work the same jobs. And he did not believe that. He wanted men in those power positions, and so somewhat misogynistic, if you will. He repudiates the Treaty of Versailles. We talked about the Treaty of Versailles and how hard it was on Germany, right? The Frances and Englands of the world, they didn't want Germany to rise up and become the super powerful country again and start another war like World War One. So they said you can't rearm and you can't do this and you can't do that. Hitler says, no, we're going to do what we want. We're not going to pay anybody any money, and we're going to rearm Germany, and we're going to make this a superpower once again. Right? He has this huge public works program. Remember, the unemployment was crazy high, 30% in Germany. So he decides we got to get people back to work. One of the ways was through the army, right? He has all these soldiers, and so he starts to put people back to work by giving them jobs in the army. But he also does public works. He has people working on the roads or creating housing. He also has forestry work being done. So the government is putting a lot of people to work in Germany. As I said, they rearmed Germany, and guess what? His plans are working. He gets Germany down from 30% down to 2%, which is phenomenal. That's crazy good economy. That's crazy good numbers as far as employment is concerned. So he does what he says he's going to do in his book, Mein Kampf, that he wrote when he was in jail. So that's why people liked him. They were willing to overlook his crazy because people had jobs and actually had money again in Germany. And they looked at around the world, and all these other countries are struggling, and Germany's doing well because they have jobs and things. So they were willing to forgive his craziness, at least for a while. And then they found out exactly how bad he was, and things changed. So this is how Hitler gained and kept power in Germany. And we'll talk a little bit more about his crazy ideas and his anti Semitic behavior tomorrow in the next lecture. See ya.